Hey guys, tonight we slip quietly into the edges of an age you were never taught to respect, an era whispered about only in footnotes, yet one that shaped far more of your world than you realize. You're standing at the forgotten dawn of Khwarezm. Yes, an actual golden age hiding in plain sight, where sandwind mornings glow like polished bronze and the markets hum long before the sun decides whether it even wants to rise. You feel a warm breeze brush your face, the smell of clay ovens mixing with the bite of cold desert air, and for a moment you swear time itself is holding its breath. And you probably won't survive this, at least not without wanting to Google Map a place that hasn't existed for centuries. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge into the city just as the gates creak open, their wood darkened with centuries of hands pushing them wide. The guards barely look at you. They're too busy arguing over whether the camel market should move again. Historians still argue whether Khwarezm rose because of its unbeatable geography or simply because its people were stubborn enough to thrive where others would have packed up and gone home. Either way, you walk through streets paved with ambition disguised as routine. A mainstream fact slips in as easily as the sunrise here. Khwarezm was one of the intellectual powerhouses of the medieval Islamic world, rivaling places you have heard of, Baghdad, Bukhara, Cordoba, yet somehow it remains the shy cousin of historical narratives. You wander past a madrasa courtyard where students debate algebra like it's a sport. And yes, they're doing it before breakfast. One teenager scribbles an equation so big it looks like he's trying to summon something. And you catch the teacher muttering that if he doesn't stop, they'll have to build a new wall. But then you encounter one of the city's quirks, the kind that makes you wonder if the place was designed by someone with a sense of humor. A merchant waves a pot of wind catcher perfume at you, insisting it captures the exact scent of morning breezes from the North Tower. You don't know what that means, but the man looks passionate enough that you have considered buying it. It's fine. Everyone collects something embarrassing at some point. You push deeper into the scholars' quarter, where even the cats look judgmental. The air tastes like ink and parchment dust, and every door you pass seems to leak ideas. You brush your fingers across a cracked wall, and beneath your touch lies the residue of centuries of whispered theories, some brilliant, some strange, some probably cooked up after too much date juice. One older scholar is still furious about a star chart drawn 30 years earlier, and he tells you without breaking eye contact that he'll fix it before he dies. You believe him. As you drift away, you catch another debate crackling through a doorway. Two scholars dispute whether a traveler from China actually visited years before, leaving behind a strange folding tool no one can fully explain. You lean closer, only to hear them shift topics entirely, to whether the city should adopt night markets permanently. Typical, people rarely argue about the important things. A rooster screams in the distance like it's auditioning for a metal band, and you continue forward, feeling the dawn of this forgotten era wrap around you, quiet, bright, unhurried, brilliant. You keep walking without breaking the rhythm of the city's waking pulse, letting the sound stretch into a soft hum behind you. The markets spill outward in uneven rows, stalls clustered so tightly you feel like the merchants built them during an argument and never bothered to fix the layout afterwards. And yet somehow, it all works. You drift through the lanes as if guided by an invisible current. What strikes you most isn't the noise or the colors, but the quiet threads of movement traveling above it all, threads most travelers never notice. These are the shadow networks of the Silk Road, the couriers without flags, uniforms, or fanfare. You spot one now, a boy carrying a sealed wooden tube, tucked under his arm like he's smuggling a pet snake. No one pays him any attention, but you sense he's more important than half the caravan leaders here. Historians still argue whether these human message runners were coordinated by guilds or simply by families guarding ancient routes, but either way, They carried knowledge with impossible speed. You watch him weave through a crowd like it's a game he's already won, vanishing into an alley no wider than your shoulders. You trail behind, moving into a quieter zone where the air changes. It smells of sawdust, hot iron, and ambition, the artisans' district. Here, workers shape the world with their hands while barely looking up. A mainstream fact slips in as easily as the sunrise here. Khwarezm was one of the intellectual powerhouses of the medieval Islamic world, rivaling places you have heard of, Baghdad, Bukhara, Cordoba, yet somehow it remains the shy cousin of historical narratives. You wander past a workshop where a man leans over a copper gear so small you'd lose it in your laundry. He spots you staring and gives a shrug, the universal signal for, yeah, I know it's impressive. Then comes your dose of quirkiness. A potter proudly shows you a set of clay whistles shaped like desert lizards. When you ask what they're for, he says, scaring thieves. You blow one and it sounds like a teapot having an emotional breakdown. Maybe it worked. Or maybe thieves just didn't want to deal with a man determined to invent ceramic lizard security. The river calls you next, low, wide, and steady, moving as if it knows it has nothing to prove. Khwarezm's life has always leaned heavily on river rituals, some practical, some interpretive. You pass a group of women letting streams of water run across carved wooden boards, tracing patterns meant to predict crop health for the season. Historians still argue whether these rituals originated with ancient astronomy or just really creative farmers. Either way, you watch the sunlight flicker across the boards, turning the water into liquid mirrors. Further down the bank, a fisherman performs a ritual so odd you blink twice. He taps his boat 3 times with a dried gourd before pushing off. You ask why. He says, it keeps the river spirits polite. You nod respectfully. You don't know how polite a river can be, but you've seen hotel guests behave worse. As you walk, the river unfolds into a living museum of survival methods. Nets woven from reeds tougher than rope, floating gardens balancing on inflated goat skins, and children swimming with perfect form, because frankly, if you grow up next to this much water, you either learn or you stay very, very dry. Something shifts as the light intensifies. The city feels larger than it was a moment ago, as if every artisan, courier, farmer, and river watcher is part of one sprawling mind, thinking, creating, improvising in harmony. And you realize you've stepped into an era that never needed monuments to prove its worth. Its greatness lived quietly in the hands of its people, in the patterns of its river, in the secrets carried through back alleys and dusty roads. You keep moving, letting the story glide forward with you. Nothing to introduce, nothing to summarize, just the pulse of a forgotten age tightening around your senses as you take another step. You leave the river's slow murmur behind and head toward the outskirts, where the sand grows coarse enough to sting your ankles. The city thins, the noise softens, and soon you're facing something that makes you stop mid-stride. A fortress planted right in the middle of the desert, looking as if it was dropped here by a sleep-deprived giant. Its walls rise in smooth, geometric slabs, completely inconsistent with the landscape around it. Historians still argue whether these desert forts were defensive stations, astronomical observatories, or just very fancy rest stops for very picky governors. Whatever the truth, you feel their stubborn presence long before you touch the stone. You approach the entrance, running your hand over the sun-warmed surface. It shouldn't exist, at least not here, not with this level of precision. A mainstream fact surfaces as you walk along the base. Khwarezm's frontier forts once formed a massive protective chain across the region, watching over trade arteries like silent sentinels. You imagine guards standing under a blazing sky, squinting toward the dunes, waiting for caravans or trouble, or occasionally a bored goat wandering in like it owns the place. Inside, you discover staircases that lead nowhere, windows pointed at odd angles, and a narrow slit in the wall clearly designed by someone who believed humans should fold like pocket knives. You try squeezing through just to see what's beyond, and halfway through, you begin questioning every decision that led you to this moment. Still, the fortress holds a charm, the echo of boots on stone, the tiny rooms filled with cool air, and the feeling that if walls could gossip, these would never stop. Beyond the fort, the land tilts downward into a valley where time behaves strangely. Not metaphorically, literally weird. You come across a cluster of sun-bleached markers, each etched with notations from a calendar system that never caught on. Scholars call it the Time Experiment Era, which sounds dramatic enough to be the title of a Netflix series. A quirky tidbit reveals itself. Some locals here once tried to divide days into units based on the rhythm of common chores, baking cycles, irrigation patterns, and even the duration of a neighbor's nightly snoring. You can imagine the chaos. Historians still argue whether this attempt was scientific innovation or just boredom mixed with too much free sunlight. But that experimental spirit lingers in the dust, and you feel it as you kneel beside the engravings. These early calendar stones don't match the lunar or solar cycles you know. They follow a sequence that makes your brain itch, like someone tried to reinvent time using a rule book written by a poet with commitment issues. You smile, despite yourself. Human beings have always been desperate to control time, and always terrible at it. A breeze nudges you toward the next curiosity, a sprawling market that pops up like a mirage, its tents patched with every color imaginable. This isn't the Grand City Bazaar, it's the Desert Edge Profession Market, a place where people sell skills you didn't know existed. You wander past a man advertising his service as a wind interrupter. When you ask what that means, he says he stands in specific spots to adjust airflow for tent ventilation. It sounds made up, but he hands you a demonstration leaflet. It's blank. He says, "The wind knows." You nod as if that explains anything. Nearby, a woman offers professionally trained messenger pigeons who prefer diplomatic missions only, whatever that means. Another stall advertises sand smoothing, a profession dedicated to leveling dune surfaces before caravans camp. It feels absurd, yet weirdly useful. You can almost hear ancient travelers grumbling, "Finally, a flat place to sleep." Mainstream fact anchors the scene. Specialized workers like metal casters, textile dyers, mathematician scribes, and caravan guides genuinely formed the backbone of Khwarizm's economy. But out here, beyond the city's walls, you meet the fringe, the people history forgets but life relied on anyway. The sun dips lower, painting the desert in molten gold. You feel the era tighten around you again, wrapping you in its odd brilliance, its experiments, its humor, and its stubborn pulse of survival. You keep walking, the story carrying you forward without pause. You follow the fading sunlight as it leaks across the dunes, letting its warmth guide you back toward civilization. The closer you get to the city's heart, the more the air picks up a soft vibration, like someone is whispering just out of earshot. You soon realize it's not someone, but dozens of someones, all gathered on a rooftop courtyard drenched in twilight. They're astrologers, hunched over massive star charts, weighted with smooth river stones, arguing with the kind of passion people today reserve for sports finals and phone reviews. You ease closer, pretending you belong, and immediately catch a debate about whether a faint star on the horizon signals good trading months or a diplomatic headache. A mainstream fact settles naturally into place. In many medieval Islamic societies, astrology was used alongside astronomy, influencing political planning and agricultural cycles. But here, in Khwarizm's underrated era, these rooftop advisors carried surprising weight. One man jabs his finger at a parchment, insisting the governor delay a meeting purely based on a planetary alignment. Historians still argue whether these recommendations genuinely shaped policy or simply gave leaders a convenient excuse to procrastinate. Either way, you watch them scribble notes with suspicious confidence. You step away before someone asks you to interpret a constellation and descend into a narrow street where the air thickens with heat and the metallic tang of hammered bronze. This is the domain of the secretive trade guilds, workshops so tightly regulated they make modern tech companies look relaxed. A guild apprentice blocks your path, squinting at you like he's trying to determine whether you're here to steal a technique or just lost. Probably both, honestly. A mainstream fact glows beneath the surface. Khorizm's craftsmen guarded their innovations fiercely, from dye formulas that produced impossible blues to irrigation components designed to last generations. You peek into one workshop where artisans carve minute patterns into gears meant for astronomical instruments. The master catches your eye and gives a barely perceptible nod, approval, or maybe a warning, hard to tell. But then the quirky secret smell hits you, a sweet, smoky aroma drifting from behind a curtain. You slip closer and discover a group of metal workers heating herbs not for medicine or perfumes, but to calm the bronze. One swears the fumes help the alloy settle more evenly. Another says it keeps mischievous spirits away. Historians still argue whether this ritual had metallurgical benefits or was just comforting superstition passed from master to apprentice like an heirloom joke. You inhale a bit of the smoke. It smells like someone roasted mint inside a blacksmith's helmet. Your steps carry you into the food district next, the world suddenly alive with steam, spices, and the rhythmic whack of knives on wooden boards. Here, the humble ingredients of Khorizm build civilizations quietly, one pot at a time. A mainstream fact rises with the scent of roasted grain. Early forms of pilaf spread from these regions across continents, evolving into dishes loved from Central Asia to the Mediterranean. You watch a cook stir a pot with the confidence of someone who knows their recipe could cause diplomatic incidents if altered. But the real surprise comes from a tiny stall guarded by an elderly man with eyebrows so dramatic they deserve their own postal code. He hands you a bowl of something beige and slightly suspicious looking, insisting it's the desert's secret strength. You take a bite. It tastes like sweetened clay with ambitions. He explains it's made from ground roots mixed with date syrup, an old traveler's food believed to sharpen memory. Whether it works or not, you suddenly remember every embarrassing thing you've ever done, so maybe he's onto something. A fringe tidbit bubbles up. Some locals believed certain foods needed to be eaten while facing specific directions for maximum blessing. You glance around to check your orientation, then decide not to question it. Sometimes it's safer to follow instructions. The night deepens. Lanterns bloom across the streets, and the city feels like it's inhaling slowly, preparing to show you something even more deeply hidden. Each corridor seems to promise another secret, another echo of brilliance preserved in quiet corners. You keep walking, letting the era fold around you like a warm cloak, stitched from starlight and spice. You drift into the quieter quarter of the city, where the noise of markets and guilds softens into a gentle hush. Lanterns flicker here with a steadier glow, as if the wind itself respects the silence. You follow a narrow walkway between mud brick walls until it widens into a courtyard, dominated by a structure that does not look entirely real. A library with doors tall enough to make you straighten your posture even though no one is watching. The wood is scorched in places, repaired in others, and you sense instantly that this building has survived more than it should have. And you're right, a mainstream fact stands firm. Several major charismatic libraries were destroyed and rebuilt across centuries, some lost to invasions, others to accidents or political shifts. But this one, this quietly breathing archive, has its own strange claim to fame. It vanished twice. Not metaphorically, vanished. The first time, it was emptied in secret and moved overnight during a regional conflict. The second time, it was hidden behind false walls when an occupying force approached. The books redistributed into homes like smuggled treasure. Historians still argue whether the librarians orchestrated these moves alone, or if half the city joined the effort like a giant, unofficial book club with nerves of steel. You run your hand along the wall, feeling grooves where shelves once rested before being whisked away into the night. Inside, the smell hits you first. Dried ink, dust, and a faint sweetness like old paper trying to remember the trees it came from. The hall is dim, lit by carefully placed oil lamps. You wander between shelves filled with manuscripts, star charts, medical treatises, poetic rambles, and notes tucked between pages by scholars who definitely did not expect you to be reading their marginal complaints hundreds of years later. One doodled a goat wearing a scholar's turban. You're not sure whether it's a joke or a critique of a colleague. A librarian drifts by, silent, gliding, maybe part ghost, and gestures for you to follow. He leads you to a side chamber where an archivist is reconstructing a damaged manuscript, one whisper-thin page at a time. She explains, calmly, that they're rebuilding knowledge the world barely remembered existed. For a moment, you feel the weight of the forgotten era pressing warmly against your chest, like history itself leaning closer to make sure you're paying attention.